Hi Sheila, hi Simon, and hi world. Welcome to the People's Food Summit segment, and I'm currently having the honor to record the European continent. I'm here with two wonderful colleagues that agreed to jump on a call with us, Sheila Darmos, who is based in Greece, and Sheila is a farmer as well as a member of the European Regenerative Agriculture Alliance. Sheila, you're welcome, and I hope that you're having a good day. And we also have Simon Kramer, who is currently in Sicily, but is also coming in here from the policy space of the European Regenerative Ag Alliance. Simon literally agreed to jump on this call last minute, so we're truly also blessed to have you. And so, well, this is the People's Food Summit. We're thankful that because of the online space, we live in a world without borders. We're no longer limited, and we can chat an African and two Europeans about a thing that we are both interested in, which is regenerative agriculture, a secure future, and social cohesion in whatever space that we come from. So, guys, feel free. Sheila, can you please engage us? Tell us about yourself and your role in the farming communities there in Greece. And yeah.
Yes, thanks a lot also for the invitation, Precious. Yeah, as you already said, I'm a farmer in South Greece, and I'm very honored to continue the farm of my father, which was one of the first organic farms in Greece back in the 80s. And now it's in agroforestry since 2015. And also I'm running a very small food business. So we work with a lot of organic farmers from the region and with with a lot of small food enterprises all over Europe. Also, I'm running regenerative farming in Greece, and our aim is there to really support farmers in the transition and make regenerative farming more known. So we connect farmers in peer-to-peer learning networks. We provide a lot of educational content in Greek language because language in Greece is a barrier for farmers to learn. And we're also hopefully soon going to have more capacities to work in the policy space. Yeah, and I'm also very, very lucky co-founding farmer of EARA, of the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture. But I think we're going to get to those details a bit later. Maybe Simon can have some space to introduce himself.
Yes, please, Simon, go ahead. Thank you, Sheila.
Yes, thank you, Precious, for inviting us, and hello to all the wonderful people on People's Summit on food. I'm Simon. I grew up in Germany in the medium-sized food industry, let's say, and have been studying economics and political agroeconomy and ecology, and have been working also for Nature Conservancy NGOs, as well as in the private sector, kind of consulting for small and regenerative and short food value cycles. And I had the great honor of co-facilitating the self-organization of the amazing pioneers of regenerative agriculture in Europe, really from the whole diversity of production types, of agroecosystems, also of farming philosophies, into our now European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture that is completely farmer-led in a sociocratic manner, and with which we hope to influence both policy making as well as kind of private sector sense making of our crisis and their adaptation within it, as well as, of course, almost most importantly, the health of the amazing farmers within and their families.
Thank you. Oh, thank you both. Maybe just a quick question. I'm quite interested to learn what drew you to regenerative agriculture. I will speak for myself. I grew up rural, growing up with my grandmother, and interacting with the land. So I naturally sort of took that route, and I found myself very keen and interested. Like, what drew you? I know, Sheila, you overtook your father's farm, but it must have taken something extra within you to jump in.
Yes, that's true. I think also for me it was quite natural. I was like born and raised with this attention towards nature and to care for it. And I think then my background in sociology also made me always think about how can we create a context for people to bring out the best in them, like to bring out the best in, behavior in people. So always to looking at it from a systemic point of view. Also, having grown up in Germany 20 years and returning back to Greece, I was like, wow, things here are very different. And so I was always analyzing, like, what is happening? Why are the dynamics here so different? Why is environmental awareness here so much less? And yeah, I think all this led me on my path to this, where I am now.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And Simon, from a very different level, but you also found yourself in the regenerative ag space.
Yeah, so I grew up really on the dinner table discussing always the power of the big retailers and how farmers, but also small and medium-sized processing and food industry can survive. So I really came from this socioeconomic perspective. And then I must say, firstly, got into contact with Walter Jean, the amazing Australian microbiologist and regenerating practitioner, and the whole livestock debate and this, yeah, or this, what is driven then again of the same power structures that I grew up on fighting on the dinner table. And then again in the big NGOs, especially in Germany, Regen Ag was looked upon not as a revolutionary farmer movement from below that had the capacity of uniting in diversity all the different progressive farmers, but just as a greenwashing vehicle of big business. And then we really came to understand that we need to bring in this space, especially in Europe, a voice that is led and manifested by the leading practitioners, the farmers.
That's wonderful. I mean, I can't believe that we both know Walter Jean. I know him very well, and I think we've shared quite amazing platforms, and he's amazing. Like, he's amazing to listen to. What a small world. Yeah, so I think at first I heard both of you talking about the transitioning of farmers from the everyday, normal, industrious agricultural practices towards regenerative agriculture. What's the state of things now? You can speak for the region or speak for your country. It doesn't really matter, but what's the state of things? How is that support coming in? And what structures are being put into place? And I suppose we're slowly rolling towards the formation of the alliance, but just a bit of a comment.
Yeah, maybe I start again. Yeah, so Greece is very much behind, I would say, in supporting farmers in any kind of ecological practices, unfortunately. Even though farmers in Greece manage 45.5% of the Greek land surface without having any kind of support whatsoever in learning more about soil, about how it relates to plants, about biodiversity, like no chance. I experienced it myself before I started this work. I went to an agronomist and the only advice I got was, oh, use these 8 chemicals. I'm like, wait, I'm organic. I said, oh, don't worry, nobody will find out. I'm like, wait, I don't want to. Can anybody tell me what to do that is like in harmony with nature? And yeah, so that's the state quite still in Greece. I mean, I think we did a bit of work to support farmers in the transition, but it's a big task. I mean, in Greece, 10% of the population are involved in the farming activities, actually, which is quite a lot, I think, in a European comparison. But I know from countries like France that there is actually a lot of support. Farmers can even visit trainings about regenerative agriculture for free. They get funding support for specific practices. Yeah, so there's a big difference within all the countries, and also fortunately through EARA, so through the European Alliance. we can now see much easier and much quicker all these differences, and if the countries have caught up already with what the European Union, for example, is proposing. So it's really quite interesting to see all these differences.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And I imagine obviously the throughout the region, different countries, the uptake is quite different. And I feel like knowing what your neighbor does and the beauty of social media these days, those stories become inspiring and everyone's sort of catching on, which is how I imagine the alliance then became. Any thoughts from you, Simon, on the transitioning for farmers?
Yeah, I would just add again, I think so far throughout Europe, this transitioning of farmers is driven by pioneering farmers, like Sheila in Greece, but also, let's say, heroes like Sarah Singlar, Frédéric Thomas in France, in Germany, Alexander Klümper in the UK, like Ben Taylor Davis, and of course all the livestock evolution of the savory hubs. So I think we have a lot of catching up to do in the public policy sector, because also here in Europe we are very path dependent, and we have a lot of rules and a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of vested interests. So one example is only Germany, where we are, for example, although we have all possibilities, we are very much behind, even if you look at very simple indicators like the application or the use of direct seeding and cover crops in intensive arable farming, or of holistic management and diverse pastures in grassland management. And that is vested on, for example, we have a big machinery producing, tractor machinery producing interest space in Germany, who of course have little interest in that tractors being used less, so that the farmers have to buy less powerful tractors and they don't break down so soon, so they have to buy less tractors over time, just as a little example.
That's amazing. Okay, so I'm quite intrigued as well, because you did mention holistic management and transitioning in that space. Here, I'm working with communal family farmers to practice holistic management. And we're using the bigger framework of regenerative agriculture, but I'm actually an educator in holistic management. So this is all home for me as well. It's amazing, all these connections that we keep finding. And I believe that the story is the same across the board. Literally, you find that big agriculture has made a mindset to farmers. I wouldn't say it's the farmers who are like that. It's a mindset that another way of farming is a joke. Like what Sheila said, that someone says, no, no one will find out. It's not about them finding out. It's about what I'm willing to create on my farm. And so I think that mindset, I guess all of us who are in regenerative agriculture are digging through these layers of this embedment of mindset that has gone for a long time amongst farmers, such that a sort of fear has been instilled on farmers to transition, or fear of what if I lose? You know, that's where we wish we had more support to cushion them as they learn and revamp their soils back to life. But this is quite a beautiful dialogue. And I suppose at this point, we can then jump in and say, what inspired the formation of the Alliance? And just go shopping with the whole thing about what do you guys see as the bigger dream? What sort of structures are in there? You can start, Simon, or Sheila, whoever is free to start.
Yeah, I think I can start, and then of course I would say Sheila can contribute why she came and wanted to become a founding farmer. I think first of all is the peace among the pioneering farmers. You must understand that at the European policy level, some political constituencies of progressive farmer movements like conservation agriculture or organic or agroecology actually are fighting against each other instead of working together. while the farmers on the ground all work together for their soil, for their community, for their family. That's one point. Then the other point is really, as you said, it's a mindset. And I think, and we all believe that this mindset of farmers is very interdependent with the general mindset we have in society. So in Germany, or in Europe, sorry, is of course very much high yield intensity driven. So why do farmers say any other way is a joke? Because they might not get in a year with perfect circumstances the same super high yield. And we achieve that yield in that mind through segregation, to putting one plant without any connection to anything else in a vacuum to power it up on steroids as much as possible. And that's, of course, the same we're doing with our economies in general. I mean, we aim for GDP, which is just high yield without any value, and we power it up at all costs. And there we come in also, I think, from this regenerative mindset among regenerative farmers, we can grow a larger vision for the political economic development of our societies, as well as a reconnection with nature. And that's really where we're trying to advance the political discourse, but also the scientific discourse and epistemologies through putting our focus and our learning from these milieus that regenerative farmers create in their farms, in their agro-ecosystems, and so forth.
That's pretty incredible. And I drew from your speaking that you were inspired by a need to create connections. And I like the word peace because I think I've faced a lot of my own mental questioning. Do I fit in with the permaculture group? Do I fit in with the agroecology group? Yet we are all really focused on the same thing, because I think half the time the language is disturbing. Oh, regenerative agriculture will not be working in what we think agroecology, or we think permaculture, or we think holistic management. Yet the power of all of us coming together is really often overlooked. So that's really quite inspiring. And I also harvested that you're bringing those connections between policy, practice, frameworks, community, and all being connected together by nature. So what an inspiring vision as well as really motivation. Sheila, do you have, from you,
Yeah.
as a farmer, as a pioneering farmer, why did you want to be part of this movement?
Yeah, so I was really quite intrigued by the idea to come together with other pioneer farmers from all over Europe. But also, especially, I found it very, very relevant and also needed to have policy support. This is something that we're really lacking in Greece. And also, I think the access for farmers and even NGOs, like especially grassroots NGOs, to the policy space, I think is really, really difficult. Yeah, you really need to get used to the mindset, and even daring to speak to these politicians and going to the ministry and all this. It's not really something that farmers will be like, yeah, let's go and let's voice our concerns. So yeah, it seemed really like a gift from universe to have suddenly this invitation to co-found EARA, and to have such an amazing team there that has experience in the space, but also that has totally the right mindset, and that are people that you would be friends with, and we became friends, of course. So yeah, for me that was the biggest drive to go there, but also then to have support in policy work in our country. So to kind of create a channel between European farmers back to their countries, and yeah, a two-way channel, so to say. That was my biggest drive to do this.
And can you guys speak a little bit to the main goal or the bigger goals that you can pick out? I mean, no worries if you mention everything or not, but like, what's those goals that really speak to you immediately, and how are you guys structured as well?
Yeah, so maybe I start. Yeah, so some of our goals are really to learn from each other, to learn about the different practices in different contexts. Some of the farming contexts in Greece are really very similar to Italy or to even the south of France, to Portugal, to Spain. So it's really interesting to learn from each other. It's really even interesting on the policy level to learn how is the government supporting farmers in all of those regions and what are some good ideas that we can draw from that. But also, I think something very important is actually the community that gets created. It can be very lonely to be a regenerative farmer, especially in Greece. So yeah, I find it very, very nourishing to have this community of like-minded farmers, of pioneers all over Europe who really work and advocate for regenerative farming in their country. And yeah, it's a really important community as well. And yeah, maybe Simon, you can speak about the other goals that you're more related to.
Yeah, I was wondering if Simon can give us more the political goals and how you are hoping to tap into the policy. I'm quite intrigued because there are so many people with different heads in the organization that you guys have created. And that helps farmers. You know, farmers, being a farmer myself and a rural person, you're mostly timid for these high offices. But then having a person who's used to the structures in there is quite empowering. So Simon, yes, you can speak to your political goals and policy and how all that is structured.
Gladly. Maybe allow me also to pick on, you said it's for us all between the relationships. And yes, I think it's exactly from this developing competitive into cooperative relationships. And maybe one last word on our internal functioning, which we develop mainly thanks to one of our great colleagues, Ana Digon, who has built a Spanish association for regenerative agriculture already for quite some years and has a lot of experiencing in enabling the EARA founding farmers to function in a sociocratic, direct, democratically way, which nevertheless is super paradigmatic. And I think that's super important for all of us as society of our reorganization from below. And then, of course, we would love to bring that to the policy space, but I think that's a much longer vision. Right now, we are in the beginning, we have been focused mainly on the common agricultural policy. And to give you an idea of what we are aiming at is, of course, to break down this mindset of believing that, especially in Europe, if we reduce inputs, we necessarily reduce outputs. And we need to do that to come to grips with the trade-off between productivity and nature, which is, of course, a completely eco-efficient Jevons paradox problematic mindset. So we set out to prove by not looking at, let's say, older science, ceteris paribus science, but really at the already achieved productivity and agroecosystem performance of the pioneering farmers from all diversity, that they can achieve what policymakers and politicians and even scientists in Europe still believe not even possible. That's one of our core aims. And then the other aim, after having produced these, let's say, empirics on regenerative agriculture, which we are still lacking in a holistic way, is the holy grail of how to create an enabling milieu for all farmers to engage on the regeneration path and advance on that path as fast as possible. And there, maybe let me say, globally, we spend $817 billion annually in public payments as support or subsidies to farmers. All of the 817 billion are basically a way to pay for nature exploitative and degrading farming, feeding basically only a 30 billion global healthcare system. And we really want to develop a path, again, learning from what regenerative farmers themselves have developed. So like the EOV of holistic management, like Regenified of pioneering American farmers, like Integrity Grown of John Kempf, like the Earthworm Foundation in Europe, where we can unite monitoring, reporting, and verification, let's say this information producing, with the agronomic support that farmers need, that Sheila said in the beginning she was not giving, and we are still very lacking in a context-specific way. And really to fuse these both to create a new channel through which public money, our taxpayer money, can properly inoculate the regeneration path of all farmers.
That's an amazing and super broad context. When you well, so you guys started in 2020, is that right? The EARA.
When we founded only in 2023.
2023. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the seed started earlier than that. But how much is it growing? And what sort of funding opportunities are there for the Alliance, such that maybe you can be a big pool for helping support farmers who are transitioning or support farmers who are trying to deepen their knowledge and bring in all that you've been mentioning, the EOVs and all that for everyone to be verifiable, so to speak. I suppose you're also generating your own ways and your own standards as you are moving. What sort of support are you finding? And,
Yeah, maybe I can say, to stay within holistic management and our lifestyle revolution and all growth, really, I hope we are on an S-curve. So, and we are still before this exponential explosion of our growth. And so far, we have been really careful in stewarding for quality over quantity, so that we are really assured that when this exploitative, I'm already saying, this exponential growth is happening, we have cooperative and not exploitative relationships among our core parts.
That's amazing.
So we are not a cancer or a parasite, but a regeneration organism.
That's refreshing also hearing from you, because half the time we're obsessed about this many numbers are involved and, we have jumped this, but usually in regenerative designing, sometimes it feels like and it's not even a solid, a stagnant truth, but I have seen a pattern to say it sort of feels like you have to deepen the design and understand the dynamics of this new being that you have created before you start seeing that growth. And maybe this is probably that time where you guys are, given that you only started last year. But like, how many member states, if we were to use that word, how many member countries did you start off with? Everyone who jumped on board, and I see a growth anyways, eventually.
Yeah, so we started, I think, with 60, something around 60 farmers, 15 to 15 countries, 15 to 20 countries. And we have now started our new member process, which is only by our founding farmers putting the word out to other regeneration pioneers. And so, yes, I think we are setting up the structures to then be growing more quickly and to the other countries of Europe, which is already happening. For example, I have, just yesterday I had a great call with an amazing pioneering young farmers building a movement in Romania. And I think he will become a EARA farmer very soon. And maybe the last point, of course, you said on finances and stuff, that is, of course, a struggle for us, especially if we do not want to cater to the number game of philanthropy and, let's say, the fast quantitative impact analysis, which brings us just back to CO2 efficiency and these problems of that. We have been very lucky in that we had some small family foundations believing in the way we are doing things. And now I think as we come out of this beginning of the S-curve of our growth in the next 1.5 years, we will diversify a little bit and also see how we can engage with these private methodologies and the private sector, because of course 817 billion sound a lot, but the whole food system is 10 trillion. So it's not so much in the sense like we need to be able to create positive ways of private capital to flow before we recommend what we need to recommend.
Thank you. I mean, as we almost draw to a close, can you guys speak a little bit to how do you see yourselves or the EARA playing, what role can they be playing on social cohesion? Are the social dynamics that you're going to be touching as you work with farmers or policymakers or consumers? How's that strategy?
Maybe we start with Sheila from her work for social cohesion in a Greek context.
And you know, I'm asking this question because, you know, the regenerative movement, it's not only like a practice, but it's also a social movement, science, policy, bringing in consumers, all that, economics, you know. So I'm just interested in seeing what sort of dimensions you guys are sensing.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think EARA will play quite a lot this role of also bringing together the different movements in the different countries because of this regenerative mindset that we have and really going away from the competitive mindset. So this is a role I see many founding farmers starting to play in their own countries. And also I think it has to do with a generational change as well. So this is one big thing, really making everybody understand that we are going together in one direction. Is it called conservation agriculture, permaculture, natural farming, agroecology? So it has a lot this uniting character. Yeah, this I see as one of the main future developments.
Simon, you can jump in if you have something to say as well.
I just say we really like the metaphor of the social mycelium. You know, if you look at farmers across the board self-identifying with regenerative agriculture and really pushing the frontiers of agronomic innovation through increasing more cooperative relationships within soils and ecosystems, that's the same we ought to do in society. So we are alienated from each other and ever more so, just like the plants and the soil in conventional agricultural fields. So I think, you know, there's also a lot of criticism sometimes of agricultural exceptionalism in policy discourse and political economy. I think that's very ill-informed because it's agricultural that our cultural revolution must happen from below, and the farmers are the first stewards of our society's metabolism with nature, and from there grows our relationships with each other.
That's such
I
a
could not have said it better.
Oh, that's so beautifully said, Simon and Sheila. Honestly, you guys, this has been also very enlightening to me, and I feel like it'll be so enlightening to everyone who listens to you. And you know, as a wrap-up question, support question, how can other networks that have been around, like Regeneration International, we're global, and how can we support also just bringing in the mycelium that you just spoke about? How can we be part of you to promote, to support, to bring your voice out there? And yeah.
I mean, I can only say you were there to support us from the very beginning. You know, I was at the last World Climate Conference in Dubai and met the Friends of Regeneration International. And boom, boom, in terms of 20 minutes, they got me on a few stages where I could share the voice of our farmers and the general, revolution we all stand up for. And I think in general, I think we are immersing with each other. We hope also to put the question back to you. How can we support you and the global movement?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like telling each other's story wherever an opportunity arises, or our social media presence as well. It really helps. If there's stories or you guys have gatherings, we are that ally and that partner that can easily push things forward. And I'm sure you guys could do the same for us, because your story is so beautiful and it looks like a beginning of something that will just continue to snowball, led by farmers, people with heart and passion and feet on the ground in their countries. It's quite inspiring. Sheila, do you have any last words?
Yes, I would maybe also like to add that also going more with this thinking of uniting and not being competitive. I do believe there is a legitimacy for having different movements, for having the natural farming movement. I mean, they all have also their social background and how they were born. So I think the idea is not to erase all of them and just have one out there, but really to keep the diversity. And I think in that sense, really every movement needs to also have maybe appointed people who will create the connections with other movements and other organizations to actually see how can we actually on a very practical level help each other. This needs conversation. This needs people really having this collaborative environment in mind. And yeah, it takes time, it takes effort. We need to communicate. So, and I see many organizations just practically not having time to have those conversations even, while in the end we might do double work. And yeah, it would be more smart to work together from the beginning. Yeah, that's maybe my call out there.
Yes, thank you guys. I truly appreciate your time, and I hope you also enjoyed as much as I did. Seems very extractive, but I really gained a lot of insight from what drives you. And I guess that also brings in personal growth to me and the legal work that we are also trying to generate across the world. So it's truly inspiring, and I hope that we can continue to interact and collaborate as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. And also, we want to say we really appreciate the work that you guys are doing in Greece and all over the world. We really look up to you. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.